Okay, year 7. So we're looking at the question of how do we multiply and divide integers. So far we've added and subtracted integers, haven't we? But this has a slightly different rule. And what the rule is that if you have the same sign, so let's say I have a minus times a minus, that will give you a positive answer. If you had a positive times a positive, your answer would also be positive. In other words, we say that like terms, remember a like term, I've got to remember how to write, like terms are if one term, this is a term, it's a positive, is like the other term, in other words, it's the same. If you multiply the same terms, like terms, you always get a positive. However, unlike terms are different. If I had a negative and I wanted to multiply that by a positive, or if I had a positive and I wanted to multiply that by a negative, see how these are unlike terms. Minus is unlike a plus. A minus is unlike a plus. Then if you multiply unlike terms, you always get a negative answer. These are unlike terms. So let's have a look at some examples to show you how it works. Remember, this is only for multiplying and dividing integers. So your first question is, am I multiplying or dividing something? If you are, then this rule applies. So let's have an example. Let's have an example 1. Minus 2 times 6. The first thing I ask myself is, do I have like terms or unlike terms? Well, let's have a look. I've got a minus, here it is, and in front of this 6, if there is no sign, remember I always assume that it's positive. So I can put a little positive in there just to remind myself. So I've got a minus times a positive. These are unlike terms. A minus times a positive must give me a minus answer. So I simply say 2 times 6 is 12, but because it's negative times a positive, they're unlike, my answer is minus 12. Because a negative times a positive is always a negative. There's my negative. Let's do another one. Question 2. How about minus 4 times minus 2? Okay, I've got a minus sign, and a minus sign. These are like terms. They're the same term. The rule is if you've got the same terms, if they're likes, a minus times a minus, my answer is actually a positive. So 4 times 2 is 8, and my answer is positive. We know that I wouldn't really need to put that plus sign in. I could just write the answer 8 because if there's no sign written there, we assume that it's a positive. Let's try another one. How about minus 3 times minus 4? Now we see lots of minuses there and we're tempted to think the answer should be a minus, shouldn't we? But if you like, think about it that one minus cancels out the other minus if you like. I'm dealing with like terms. Look, a minus times a minus is a positive. So I do the multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. And because they're like terms, my answer is positive. I can just leave it as 12. If you want to, you can put the positive in. Let's try a divided by. How about minus 15 divided by 3? What's my answer to that? Well, I check. Am I multiplying or dividing? Yes, I am. I'm dividing. So my rules up here apply. Now I'll check my terms. I've got a minus, and a positive. These are unlike terms. They are different to each other. So if I've got unlike terms, my answer is always a negative. So I'll say 15 divided by 3. Well, that's 5. But because I've got a minus and a positive, they're unlike, then my answer is always a negative. My answer is minus 5, not just 5. Go and do some examples for yourself.